I've always been a meat lover, especially pork. Bacon in the morning, grilled ribs for lunch, a steaming bowl of pork belly stew for dinner. I couldn't get enough. Pork was my life, my comfort, my joy. If anyone asked, I'd joke, if pigs could talk, they'd probably hate me. But I never really thought about it. Not until that day. It started like any other. I headed out to buy fresh pork for dinner. I was walking to the local butcher, already tasting the crispy pork belly I planned to cook. The air was oddly still, no cars, no chatter, just an eerie silence that clung to the streets. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, but I shrugged it off. Maybe it was just a slow day. As I rounded the corner, something heavy smashed into the back of my head. Pain exploded behind my eyes, and the world faded to black. When I woke up, I was in a cage. Iron bars surrounded me, cold and unyielding. Around me, other people were trapped in similar cages, their faces pale and terror-stricken. Some were crying, others murmuring prayers. My head throbbed, and I struggled to piece together what had happened. "What's going on?" I whispered. But no one answered. Then I heard it. Heavy footsteps, slow and deliberate. My heart thudded in my chest as a shadow loomed outside the cage, and then it stepped into the light. It was Peppa Pig, or at least it looked like her, but not the cheerful cartoon character children adored. No, this was a monstrous version, a grotesque parody. Its pink skin was raw and glistening, like slabs of uncooked meat. Its mouth was lined with jagged, razor-sharp teeth.
"Welcome,"
it growled, voice guttural and chilling. It held a clipboard in one clawed hand, scanning the group like a predator choosing its prey.
"Name,"
it demanded from the first person. When they stammered out a reply, the creature consulted its clipboard.
"You've consumed approximately 500 kilograms of pork in your lifetime,"
it said, voice dripping with malice.
"That's roughly 100 kilograms of flesh I'll need in return."
Before the man could respond, Peppa grabbed him and dragged him out of the cage. His screams echoed as he disappeared into the shadows. Peppa led him into a dimly lit room that looked like a slaughterhouse. The metallic stench of blood was overwhelming. Through the bars, I watched as she strapped him to a table. His screams echoed as her cleaver came down. Blood splattered across the walls, pooling beneath the table. I gagged, bile rising in my throat. The next person was taken, then the next. Each time, the creature read out the weight of pork they'd consumed as if it were a sentence, a tally of their sins. And each time, the screams grew louder, more desperate. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. My stomach churned with fear and nausea. Then I heard it again. The wet, sickening thud of a cleaver meeting flesh. Blood sprayed across the walls, dripping down like a grotesque waterfall. Hooks hung from the ceiling, swaying gently with chunks of human meat impaled on them. My turn was coming. I knew it. I began twisting and pulling at the ropes binding my wrists, ignoring the sharp pain as they dug into my skin. My fingers trembled, slick with sweat, but I refused to stop. My experience with tying and untying pork roasts had taught me how to handle knots, and I clung to that skill now like a lifeline. The creature stood before me, flipping through its clipboard. Finally, it stopped and grinned, revealing rows of jagged teeth.
"Huh.
It hissed, its glowing red eyes narrowing.
A pork lover, aren't you? Let's see. 750 kilograms. Quite the appetite.
It turned back toward me, the cleaver gleaming in its hand. But the cage was empty. By the time it realized, I was already free, slipping into the shadows, the ropes I'd finally untied falling silently to the ground behind me.
Get back here!
It roared, its footsteps pounding behind me. The hallway was narrow and slick with blood, making every step treacherous. My breath came in ragged gasps as I ducked and weaved, desperate to escape. I spotted a large cabinet and dove underneath, curling into a ball and holding my breath. The creature stormed into the room, sniffing the air like a bloodhound. Its glowing eyes scanned the space, passing over the cabinet. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it wouldn't find me. Then she crouched.
Found you!
She snarled, her teeth gleaming. Before she could find me, chaos erupted outside. Shouts, crashing metal, the sounds of people fighting back. Peppa hesitated, her ears twitching at the noise.
Stupid pigs.
It muttered before stomping out to deal with the commotion. I didn't waste a second. Crawling out from under the cabinet, I bolted in the opposite direction, following the faint glow of daylight. My legs burned, and my lungs felt like they'd collapse. But I kept running. That night, I sat in my apartment trembling, unable to close my eyes without seeing its face, hearing the screams. The thought of pork, of bacon, of ribs, it made me sick. I didn't need to think twice. I'll never eat pork again. When I first started working at La Belle Cuisine, I thought I had a chance to prove myself in the world of high-end culinary arts. But dreams have a way of souring in the harsh reality of kitchen life. Instead of plating delicate entrees or learning the secrets of fine sauces, I found myself relegated to gorying task, peeling mountains of potatoes. The kitchen's damp environment seeped into my skin, turning it rough, scabbed, and unrecognizable. Chef Laurent was the worst. His booming voice echoed through the kitchen, barking orders and criticisms with no regard for who was in his path. I was his favorite target.
Paul!
He bellowed one afternoon, slamming a wooden spoon on the counter.
Even a monkey could peel faster than you. Are your hands broken?
The other cooks laughed. My cheeks burned, but I kept my head down, fingers trembling as I worked the peeler. Every day was the same. The final straw came during a staff tasting. I'd spent weeks experimenting with recipes after hours, crafting a dish I hoped would finally earn me some recognition. When Laurent announced a tasting session, I seized the opportunity and presented my creation, foie gras. Laurent took one bite and spat into the dish.
Garbage!
He declared.
Stick to peeling potatoes. That's all you're good for.
Laughter erupted again, louder this time. My vision blurred with tears, but I swallowed them back. I smiled and nodded, but inside, something cracked. That night, alone in the kitchen, I stared at the pile of peelings I'd left unfinished. The steel glint of the peeler caught my eye, and my reflection stared back, warped and jagged. Then Laurent's voice echoed in my head.
Stick to peeling.
I'd been slaving for months, bending over backward for Laurent, only to be humiliated time and time again. If all he saw in me was someone to scrape and discard, maybe I'd give him exactly that. I threw myself into peeling, my knife flashing through tuber after tuber, sweat dripping from my brow onto the growing mound of mashed potatoes. My hands, calloused from relentless labor, began to ache. Without realizing it, the blade slipped, slicing through one of the hardened calluses on my palm. The sliver of skin fell onto the pile of potatoes, almost indistinguishable from the starchy flesh. I froze, staring at the tiny piece of myself nestled among the mash. An idea took root in my mind, grotesque yet irresistible. What if? Driven by exhaustion and a twisted sense of rebellion, I picked up the peeler. Slowly, deliberately, I shaved off another patch of rough skin. The pain was sharp but fleeting, and the satisfaction of reclaiming control was exhilarating. I examined it, transfixed. It was almost poetic, the way my own body could be reduced to nothing but scraps, just like the potatoes, just like Laurent wanted. I mixed the pieces into the mash, seasoning it with salt, pepper, and herbs. The next day, the dish was a hit. Customers raved about the unique depth of the mashed potatoes, praising Laurent for his ingenuity. He basked in the accolades, his chest puffed out with pride, while I stood in the shadows, silently savoring my secret. But the praise didn't change my position. Laurent continued to belittle me, taking full credit for the dishes I prepared. Oddly though, I no longer felt humiliated when peeling potatoes. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, peeling tool in hand. The first time had been an act of rage, but now it felt like power. The kitchen became my domain of transformation. My worsening skin condition provided ample material to mix into the potatoes. Scabs, patches of dry skin, even the occasional drop of blood, all found their way into the mash. With each strip of skin I removed, I felt lighter, freer. I was no longer just Paul, the potato peeler, the kitchen grunt. I'd gather the strips, mix them into the batch of mashed potatoes. I was the secret ingredient, the thing that made their meals unforgettable. The restaurant's reputation soared. Laurent basked in the glory, oblivious to the true source of his newfound success. But my body didn't heal the way I expected. Where I'd peeled, the skin didn't grow back. Instead, strange, pale patches emerged, soft and glistening like raw fish. The pain became a constant hum, but it didn't matter. The dishes were all that mattered. Then, one night, as I prepared another dish, Laurent burst into the kitchen, red-faced.
What is this?
He demanded, slamming a bowl onto the counter. I froze. The broth shimmered with an oily sheen, and tiny pale fragments floated to the surface, pieces I hadn't chopped finely enough.
Explain yourself!
He roared, grabbing my arm. His grip tightened, pulling up my sleeve. The bandages unraveled, revealing the patchwork of raw flesh beneath. His eyes widened in horror.
What have you done?
He whispered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd felt in months. I've been giving you what you wanted, chef. A piece of me in every dish. Laurent stumbled back, clutching his stomach. His face turned pale as the realization hit. The critic, the patrons, the accolades, all built on the foundation of my sacrifice. He retched, the sound echoing through the silent kitchen. I turned back to the cutting board, the peeler gleaming under the fluorescent lights. There was still so much more to give.
283명 탈락.
무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다.
192명 탈락. 385명 탈락.
I stumbled, my legs barely supporting me after surviving the latest round of the Squid Game. Player 132, that's who I was now. 77, my closest companion in this nightmare, laughed with a mix of relief and exhaustion.
We made it 132.
For a fleeting moment, his grin was contagious.
Anyway, I'm Hansu.
He said, offering me a bottle of water.
I came here to save my company. It's been going through some tough times.
I hesitated, but his open expression prompted me to reply. I'm Inho, I said quietly, the words dragging like weights. Hansu's eyes softened.
What brought you here?
I hesitated, my throat tight. My wife, she has liver cancer, end stage. The light in his eyes dimmed.
I'm sorry,
he said softly. I gave part of my liver to my younger brother years ago. Now I can't do the same for her. And I don't have time to clear my name. His brows furrowed.
Clear your name?
I sighed, the words tumbling out. I used to be a cop, a good one, but someone framed me for bribery. I lost my job, my reputation, everything. This game is my last chance to save her. Hansu placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder.
We'll get through this together, Inho.
Players, welcome to the 4th game. The game you're playing today is Mingle. All players must step onto the central platform. The platform will spin while music plays. When it stops, a number will be called out. You will have 30 seconds to form a group of that exact number. Anyone left out or in the wrong number will be eliminated.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hansu gripped my arm tightly.
We're in this together, right?
I nodded. The platform began to spin, music blaring as we clung to the railings for balance. When the music abruptly stopped, the overseer's voice boomed.
Form groups of 4.
I reached for Hansu instinctively. 2 others quickly joined us, and a wave of relief washed over me as I glanced at the chaos unfolding. Those left ungrouped screamed in terror as masked guards dragged them away. The game repeated. Each round, the number called out changed. 5, 6. Hansu and I stuck together, forming alliances as necessary. Then came the final round.
Form groups of 2.
We sprinted toward the door right in front of us. It felt like salvation was only a few steps away. But as we neared the door, another player shoved past us, diving into the spot. Wait! I yelled, panic surging through me. Hansu froze, his face twisted with guilt.
I'm so sorry, Inho.
Before I could react, he shoved me backward. My years as a cop kicked in as I lunged forward, grabbing his arm in a vice-like grip.
Let go!
He shouted, his voice laced with fear. No! The timer ticked down. 10 seconds. With a final burst of strength, I shoved him away and bolted toward the door. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hansu had been my ally, my friend. But in the end, survival outweighed everything else. The remaining games passed in a blur. Hopscotch. I overcame them with ease. The final game, the Squid Game, didn't pose a challenge for me either. By the time it was over, I wasn't the same person. Every step, every choice was calculated, cold. I won. The prize, 45.6 billion won. But when I returned home, triumph was hollow. My wife was gone. On the table lay a letter, her trembling handwriting scrawled across the page.
I couldn't wait any longer, Inho, but I want you to know our baby would have been beautiful.
Beside the note was an ultrasound image. I crumpled to the floor, the weight of it all crushing me. Seeking closure, I returned to my old precinct. That's when I learned the truth. Kang Jun, my former partner, had framed me for bribery. He wanted the promotion. and I was the perfect scapegoat. Rage boiled inside me as I tracked him down, knife in hand. I was ready to end his life, but a voice stopped me.
Why waste such anger?
I turned to see a man in a black suit, his face obscured by a sleek, three-dimensional mask.
I can offer you something better. Destroy him the way he destroyed you, ruin his career, and then
He handed me a familiar card.
invite him to the game. Let fate decide if he survives, or let him depend on you.
He removed his mask and handed it to me. With nothing left to lose, I accepted his offer. Now I am the frontman. From the control room, I watch as players fight, betray, and bleed. Each scream, each desperate plea, it exhilarates me. When Kang Jun finally stepped into the arena, his pale face stripped of its arrogance, I felt nothing but satisfaction. He didn't last long. As Oh Il-nam, the mastermind of the Squid Game, watched from the shadows, he chuckled.
An interesting game, wouldn't you agree?
I didn't reply. I adjusted my mask and turned back to the screens. The next season was about to begin.